In this video, we're going to talk about the biomechanics of squatting and how it relates to kiddos, what you should look out for, and why it's so important. Stay tuned. Okay guys, squatting. What is the big deal? The reason why is because it's so functional and it's a great way to help kids and trick kids into strengthening their muscles. Let's break down squatting for you. Squatting is super important because it is the best way to get something off the ground, on a table, to pick something up. It works really well for pulling your pants on, going to the bathroom, and a bunch of other functional activities. When you are going to squat, or when a kiddo is going to squat, the most important thing is that they are stable and that they work on progressing how far they can get to the ground. What you're gonna look for during a kiddo squatting is both toe position. So toe in position is gonna mean that their hips are more internally rotated, or that the head of the femur is going backwards towards the wall behind me. Toe out is gonna be that your hips are more externally rotated, where the head of your femur is coming more towards you guys. Each kiddo is gonna be different. They're gonna have different angles of where the neck of their femur, how bent it is. We all have varying degrees of neck flexion angle. And then you're also gonna have varying degrees of the rotation of the shaft of the femur itself. You're gonna have different rotation. And depending on what the rotation is, the femur head is either gonna point more forward or it's gonna point more backwards based on where it is sitting in the cup of the acetabulum or your pelvis. These are all things that we want to talk about because they all result in different types of movement patterns and different variations of what we would consider normal or functional. The biggest thing is we want kiddos to be able to move in pain-free yet functional ways so they're able to explore their world confidently and do what they need to do. So you want the toes to be mostly straight ahead. If they're a little turned out or a little turned in, get them as straight as you can where it's still functional and pain-free for the kiddo to stand. The next thing you want to work on is shifting the weight backwards and essentially hinging at the hips to go down. So when you do a squat, most of your weight is backwards, so you can lift your toes off the ground and all of the weight is being kind of held in your glutes as you go down. And then as you stand up, most of the motion is going to come from your hips pushing forward. Your hips are doing most of the motion and the rest of your body is just kind of going along with the ride. So again, my hips go back and then my hips go forward. So when I'm thinking about motion, I'm thinking about it as originating from my hips. The other important qualities of squatting that really need to be addressed are how mobile your ankles are. You really need a good amount of dorsiflexion. So this is dorsiflexion, this is plantar flexion. In order to squat, your knee needs to be over your toes, which allows for that increase in dorsiflexion, and or the increase in dorsiflexion allows for your knees to go over your toes. Now, if you're just doing a regular squat, like you're just going to pick something up, ideally your butt is back and your knees are over your ankles. But as soon as you really drop that bottom past that 90-degree plane, all of a sudden you need to have more dorsiflexion so that knee is really going over your toes. It requires more mobility. Having that dorsiflexion mobility or flexibility and strength is really imperative for other functional activities such as going up and down stairs. For example, have this step stool here. As I go to stand on it, if you look at my lower leg, my knee is going to go over, and in order for me to have the ability to activate my glutes, I really need to get a little bit of forward momentum, forward positioning of my trunk in order to push up and to get into standing. If I don't have that forward position, which is allowed by the dorsiflexion or mobility in my ankle with my knee being able to go over my toes, it's much harder if my lower leg is right over my ankle for me to step up, because I'm only going straight up instead of going up and forward, which is how we go up the stairs in more of an up and forward motion. Now, if I'm going to step down, the same thing is really important. If you look at my right leg, as I go down and reach for that step in front of me, my knee is even more over my toe than it is when I'm going up. So descending stairs or going downstairs is super, super important to have that dorsiflexion mobility. And then when you look at kiddos, it's even more important because their little itsy bitsy legs are like half the size of a stair. So they need even more dorsiflexion. So if they're not able to maintain a deep squat and you're working on stairs, or that's something that they're going to need in the future, which is almost everybody, then you really want to be able to work on getting the squat down. Now, I already have a video on the supported squat to stand using the toddler squat, but I'm going to talk about a couple of other ideas for you guys in this video, and I will link that supported toddler squat to stand video in the comments below. So make sure to check that out, especially if your kiddo is not able to maintain that toddler squat on their own. And what I call a toddler squat is just this deep squat position. So what you may find with kiddos when they go to achieve the squat is that they're only able to go down in maybe this range. So this is where they feel comfortable. If they go down here, which requires more glute strength and more quad strength, they might kind of like plop down, or they might kind of like wobble or go to put their hands down in order to lower. So what you're going to want to do is really train that range in repetitions and in exercise that they're not able to do yet comfortably on their own. So for example, if they're good here, let them practice that all day long. What I want you guys to do as parents and therapists is to train this bottom range, okay? So maybe here to here is too much, but maybe getting them on a step stool and going from here to here and training that middle range is really gonna influence their ability to then maintain some of that deeper range. Maybe what you need to do is get a little step stool, and you got a tabletop here, right? And maybe they've got a bunch of cones all around them. There's a tabletop here, it can't be in front of me. Mechanically, that doesn't work. And then there is a cone on top, or a toy, or a puzzle where you're putting puzzle pieces. What you want to do is work on having the kiddo lean to reach to get some of these other activities, and then the tabletop is going to require them to stand up and place the object on the table. So you don't necessarily want them to just work on sitting, but okay, say they've done this, or maybe you're in front of them holding it, so it's varying ranges where maybe they just need to reach and then they put the cone on, or maybe it's up here so they just have to go up a little bit. It's not a full sit to stand. So maybe that is great and that's awesome, but now they're really tired and they're like, I'm not standing up for you anymore. Something you can do that is still going to work on what you want is keep them sitting, put objects in front of them, and then have them work on shifting their weight forward. So put it just enough out of reach that they have to lift their bum and shift their knees over their ankles and back. So you're really working on that forward weight shifting position, lifting their bottom and going forward and working on that ankle mobility, but it's at such a small range that you're not necessarily going to completely exhaust them, or it's something you can modify as well. The other activities you can do is you can have them sit on your knees, and so they're kind of doing the same thing as they were on the stool, which is to kind of lean forward, and you're actually weight shifting them forward to reach and play just by keeping those toes forward. Baby Eric's not cooperating, but you're weight shifting forward at the hips to get them to increase that dorsiflexion and that forward motion so that when they are strong enough, they're able to kind of stand up. So those are just some helpful tips to really help get your kiddo to improve their squat, and also the background of breaking down a squat and breaking down the biomechanics of a squat so you can see better where these issues may be and address them, or seek out a physical therapist to address them with your kiddo. Please like and subscribe. It really helps these videos get seen by more parents and therapists so that they can help kiddos move better and explore their environment confidently. Thanks, guys.